Stay on the path. The UAC needs your faith.
Doom 2016 made frequent use of UAC holograms, these pre-recorded talking avatars, both to provide humor as well as to give context to the world and characters. And what's especially cool about them is that they accomplish both of those things without forcing you to engage with them, as would usually be the case with narrative devices in video games, like a cutscene or a character talking into your earpiece. That way, if you don't care and just want to rip and tear, then their dialogue you need not bear because you aren't ensnared. You can give them the middle finger all you want as you walk right past them. But if you are interested in the story and the world, then these holograms act as a fantastic lens to learn about those things in an optional way. And even the people who don't bother with the story might still enjoy hearing a good joke as they pass them by.
Weaponizing demons for a brighter tomorrow.
It's a really nice piece of design. Now, you may be wondering why I've chosen these holograms of all things to focus in on first. Well, that's because they're a great microcosm of the writing as a whole. They're an opportunity for the writing team to communicate directly with the player without the constraints of needing to relate to any other part of the game, or really being that important. They can be as simple as a silly joke.
Welcome to the UAC. Now 221 accident-free days.
Or an opportunity to flex how good you are at world building.
Early tests of Vega's protoplasmic circuitry showed temperatures exceeding 1.2 megakelvins, 173 times hotter than the surface of the sun. To contain this heat, a massive supercooled structure was built to house Vega's miles of circuitry and millions of processing centers.
One last example. I want to show you guys my favorite hologram quote in the game, but first, a little context. So, the UAC in Doom 2016 is heavily fashioned on the real-life framework of Scientology and other similar cults.
Because most cults, they're kind of normal up front. They're just like, yes, everything's fine. It's about finding yourself. And no, there's no weirdness going on, you know? And then you get to like the 7th level, 4 years in, and you get handed the book and you're like, this shit is nuts. Like, what is going on? And so he kept doing that. And it was like, slightly normal corporate agenda. Oh, this is the access to the Black Book, which is totally fucking nuts. So out of that then came the UAC spokesperson guy.
So, in other words, they slowly ease you into their insanity, and the UAC does the same thing. In the areas where newer or lower-tiered employees would be, you see only the friendly mask over the face of the UAC, where they talk and act like your average tech company. And it's only in the levels that require super advanced access to get to that you get to see them without that mask. And what's especially cool about this is that the developers have structured the levels so that you go through them in a similar way to how new inductees to the UAC would. From the basic mining sections to the more advanced research divisions, so that you get to have that experience as well. Maybe at first thinking the UAC is just a standard company who naively bit off more than they could chew, all the way to witnessing the true rot at the center of it all for yourself. So, that said, here's my favorite hologram quote in the game. It's in the mining complex, and so would only be seen by inductees who've maybe been here for a few years, but not someone who is like a high-level cultist. And as such, the message is tailored to suit that kind of person.
God rested on the 7th day, but imagine how much further along we would be if he hadn't. The UAC is committed to excellence. That's why we implemented the 7-day work week. Now you can achieve greatness alongside your coworkers every day. Let's never stop achieving.
I love that line, because if you've been drinking the Kool-Aid for a few years, I can totally see that sounding reasonable to you. It's not outwardly, obviously evil, and it puts a good spin on why you would want to enjoy working non-stop forever. And maybe this is me stretching a bit, but it also means that these demon worshippers are priming you for the idea that God kinda sucks, and maybe demons are cooler. That's an example of masterful world-building, comedy, and commentary about real-life corporations, all in under 20 seconds. And then in Eternal, we have these.
Don't be afraid. Once your soul has been consumed, your fear will cease to exist. Ask not what we can do for you. Ask what you can do for us. The UAC. Your blood sacrifice today makes for a better tomorrow. Welcome to Hell, brought to you by your friends at the UAC. We want your mind, your body, and your immortal soul.
Do you get it yet? They're evil! So, let's get the obvious out of the way. The dialogue for the UAC holograms in Doom Eternal is, really bad. A reoccurring theme we'll see as we go through the game is that all of the wit has been sucked dry from the writing in Doom Eternal, and this is a prime example of that. First of all, their utility as world-building tools is gone. Not reduced, not cut back, gone. The holograms in 2016 gave you information about the larger world and characters. They helped to flesh out the levels you were in, giving the environments more context and grounding the world by showing you that these places existed and had a purpose before the demons showed up.
Completed in 2127, based off a prototype developed by Samuel Hayden's research team. The Argent Tower, also known as the Argent Inductor, is the UAC's crowning achievement. The ARC is the birthplace of several breakthrough fields, including BFG development, teleportation research, and cybernetic augmentation. This vast state-of-the-art research, design, and production center uses cutting-edge technology and fabrication techniques to prototype everything from robotics to weaponry to subspace communication systems.
All of that helped to make the UAC's Mars complex feel like a real place. But there are, count it, 0 of those same lines in Doom Eternal. Probably because we forgot to write any world building we could make them talk about. Instead, their only purpose is to pop up every 5 minutes and remind you that the UAC are in fact the bad guys.
The cleansing of Earth is a necessary step on the path to a brighter tomorrow. Take a moment to look around you. Witness the beauty of the world we have created. The UAC would like to thank you for your support during this transition. Your suffering continues to inspire us.
And it's not just that these holograms don't add any world building, they also actively detract from it. In 2016, it made perfect sense that the UAC would have holograms inside their own base. They're justified within the story because they act as propaganda and religious conversion tools for the UAC workers who lived here. But all those holograms from Doom Eternal that I just showed you, they were all on Earth, in the middle of shopping malls, car parks, and residential areas. So I guess the UAC just owns the entire world now? And also everyone on Earth is just totally fine with them building advertisement holograms in the middle of sidewalks and inside their homes and apartments? They even have one in the sewers. They're literally everywhere. Like, imagine if every time you walked into your bathroom, there was a speaker system that played an ad for Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman. You know, those famously public-facing companies who totally need to advertise to the masses. And just no one cares? Also, and I'm legitimately asking here, are these holograms pre-recorded? I mean, they certainly were in Doom 2016, and most of the lines in Eternal seem to imply the same thing. But there are also these lines that imply the opposite, that they are more or less live.
Good news for the faithful. The deceiver, Samuel Hayden, has fallen. The Ark is no more.
This is one of those things where I think the writers don't even know the answer, because both options are insane. So, either these holograms are live, in which case, why are the demons running a PR campaign during a war with the express purpose of killing all the target audience? Or they are still pre-recorded, which means they were like this before the invasion. In which case, why would the UAC go to all the trouble of pretending to be a totally normal business, and to only reveal their true intentions to those trusted few in their own base on the surface of Mars where no one else is, but openly kick puppies in their announcements on Earth seen by every random Joe who walks by?
The Doom Marine cannot save you. No one can save you.
None of this makes any sense. Okay, so maybe the holograms don't add anything to the story, and in fact actively work against it in several very damaging ways, but what about the comedy? Surely we can forgive all of that as long as they really hit it out of the park with some good jokey jokes. Well, broadly speaking, every hologram line in Eternal falls into one of three distinct joke categories. Doom Eternal hologram distinct joke category number 1. We're evil.
To live for the UAC is your duty. To suffer for the UAC is a privilege.
Most of these don't even have punchlines or any traditionally discernible elements of comedy. Like I said, they're just here to remind you that they're the bad guys. Ooh! Doom Eternal hologram distinct joke category number 2. Corporate speak mixed with demons.
Thanks to the UAC Hell Merger Initiative, humanity can now reach its full potential.
Obviously, you can find these funny if you want. Comedy is super subjective. But what I will say is that every line in this category is just a half-assed repeat of a joke that 2016 had already thoroughly exhausted. And they're all just so obvious and boring. Like, literally the first thing you think of when writing jokes about a corporation that works with demons. Oh, here's one they must have spent hours on. Ahem. Have an emergency? Just dial 6 3 times on your mobile phone, and a UAC representative will be glad to assist you. You get it? Because, like, 666? Heh. Which then leaves us with Doom Eternal hologram distinct joke category number 3. Right-wing reactionary political hot takes, xenophobia, and discrimination. Kidding. I think.
Remember, demon can be an offensive term. Refer to them as mortally challenged. Don't forget the UAC Mortally Challenged Appreciation Parade, today at 0900 hours. Earth is the melting pot of the universe.
Okay, I gotta put my serious hat on here for a second, because id Software walked into an entire gardening store's worth of rakes with this. Ahem. So I think the most uncharitable reading here would be viewing these lines as kinda out of nowhere political statements, and certainly many people took them that way. The melting pot line could be considered a criticism of immigrants, as it would here be equating them to actual literal demons, and the mortally challenged lines, a criticism of people with disabilities and the language of inclusivity, with a pretty direct parallel to the terms physically challenged and mentally challenged. Ugh, not a good look. Now, much more charitably, you could say that these lines are actually very clever. In his video addressing this topic, YouTuber and Lost Soul enthusiast Sean points out that this could instead be a continuation of the previous game's anti-capitalist commentary. And so this could be a criticism of corporations who co-opt progressive language rather than a criticism of progressive language. Now, personally, I don't buy this one either, because it requires assuming a subtlety to the writing that I find zero evidence of anywhere else in the game.
The UAC. We've got guts. Huge guts.
What I find much more evidence of, and think is infinitely more likely, is that they are really, really bad jokes that the writers just didn't think very hard about. Someone in a meeting threw out "the challenged" as a funny name for demons, and everybody giggled and high-fived each other for their wit. And even Sean, when revisiting this topic once the game had come out, seems to agree that this is now the more likely option, and laments how often Eternal uses this joke with zero self-awareness, pointing out that even the Resistance fighting in a war against the demons call them mortally challenged. Which is all true. The game does use this joke constantly, despite at best being worth a slight giggle the first time around. And the Resistance faction do also use the term, despite that making the opposite of sense. Let's take some time to appreciate that now.
The Slayer has arrived. All mortally challenged personnel, please be advised.
The legendary Doomslayer himself, fighting the mortally challenged.
Attention, all mortally challenged personnel. The Slayer is inside the facility. Please proceed with aggression.
The UAC. Bridging the gap between humanity and the mortally challenged.
While it is clear that the Slayer is an enemy of the challenged,
remember, demon can be an offensive term. Refer to them as mortally challenged.
and then proceeded to fight his way through the mortally challenged and onto the deck of the BFG 10K.
Do not run from our mortally challenged guests. Be a good host to our new friends.
As key leadership within the mortally challenged continue to fall,
The mortally challenged have entered the compound. Evacuation is advised.
Don't forget the UAC Mortally Challenged Appreciation Parade. Today at 0900 hours.
and has successfully eliminated key figures within the ranks of the challenged.
Join the official Mortally Challenged Visitor Welcoming Committee today.
In an attempt to stop the challenged from further advancing their position on Earth.
See Jessica in HR and sign up now for the UAC Mortally Challenged Blood Drive. Be generous. Give your blood. Give all of your blood.
So at this point, we have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of even having these holograms in Doom Eternal? If all the jokes suck, they don't fit with the story, and you're not interested in using them for world building, why even include them? Well, my guess is that it was a feature mindlessly copy-pasted into this new game, with zero thought put into its construction. Well, I mean, the last Doom game had holograms, so let's put them in the new one too. Holograms are just a thing we do in the new Doom games. But the holograms in 2016 made sense. They were placed inside of UAC facilities and used in-universe to assist in the larger brainwashing effort, while simultaneously providing both humor and context about the world and characters to the player. The holograms in Doom Eternal, however, seem like they were copy-pasted by writers who didn't know any better, placed into the middle of an Earth shopping mall's sidewalk, and have had any nuance ripped and torn out in favor of being reduced to unfunny Saturday morning cartoon versions of their former selves. Which is exactly why I wanted to bring the holograms up first. Because, as I said, they are perfect examples of the differences in priorities and writing quality between the two games. One of them obviously had a lot of thought and care put into it, and the other obviously had no thought or care put into it. Continued in Part 3. Special thanks to Mapel Galit, Neo the Mighty, and Isaiah Christo.